Good morning. Good morning to all the students of 10th class who are going to appear for the public examination for 2021. Today, children, we shall learn about the relief features of our country. These relief features in our earlier classes they were called as physical features. And first of all, we shall discuss why it is so important for us to discuss about these relief features because when there is a variation in the physical features or relief features, automatically there will be lot of variation in the occupation, in the lifestyle, in the vegetation, in the climate of any particular place. That is why, in order to know all such things, basically we have to know about our relief features. So before going to these relief features, let us once see what is the location of our country in our physical map, the map of physical India. If you just observe, children, just once you observe the physical map, now here you can see the parallel lines as well as vertical lines, the lines that are horizontal as well as the lines that are vertical. And you all know very well that the horizontal lines are called as latitudes and the vertical lines are called as longitudes. And if you see the location of our country, almost our country, it is located in the northern hemisphere of the globe between 8 degrees and 38 degrees of northern latitudes. You can see between the southern tip and the northern tip. The southern tip you can see almost at 8 degrees centigrade, and the northern tip it can be at you can see it at 38 degrees north latitude. And if you see the extension of our country, east and west sides, this this is extended between 9 degrees and 68 degrees east longitudes. It is very clear now if you can see. Between 9 degrees and 68 degrees east longitudes and between 8 degrees and 38 degrees north latitudes, India is located. And the 82 degrees 30 inches of longitude is passing through our country. And it is passing through Allahabad. And I think you can remember what we have learnt in our earlier classes that it passes through a place in Andhra Pradesh also. Can you name that place? It's Kakinada. The 82 degrees 30 inches of longitude passes through Kakinada, that is through Allahabad in our country, and the mean time of that place is considered to be the Indian Standard Mean Time. And this 82 degrees 30 inches of longitude, east longitude, that is passing through our country, and the time of this area or this longitude is considered to be the Indian Standard Time, and which is 5.5 hours. 5.5 hours before the time of 0 degrees longitude. It is 5.5 hours. We get 5.5 hours prior to the time of 0 degree longitude, or which is called as Greenwich Meridian, which passes through London. So we are 5.5 hours ahead to the time of London time. That way you can calculate the time too. And now let us go to the geological background. Geological background of our country. How our country was formed. How the physical features have been formed. If we go into it, first we have to see that earlier, some over 200 million years ago, the entire land, the entire globe, it has witnessed two giant land masses, which are called as, which were named as Angara and Gondwana. Angara land and another one is Gondwana land. These two were the large land bits which prevailed some 200 million years back. And later on, there has been lot of changes. This Gondwana land, in which Indian Peninsula is located, this later on, this Gondwana land, over 200 million years back, it was split. It split because of the disturbances or because of the contraction or rarefactions in its layers. There had been disturbance, and because of that it has split, and later on the peninsular India split and it went into collision. It moved towards the northeast part, northeast side, and went in collision into the large Eurasian part, which is in Angara. Did you understand, children? So the Gondwana land in which the Indian peninsula lies, when the Gondwana land split, the Indian Peninsular large plate, it collided with the Eurasian plate, and later on what happened is a large exertion of force. When it went in collision with the Eurasian plate, there has been large exertion of force, and because of this large exertion of force, slowly the land has elevated. The elevation started, and that elevation, when there will be force from both the sides, what will happen? The area that is lying between these two forces, it started elevating. It started moving up, and this elevation has led into the formation of the Himalayan mountains. Did you got it? Did you get it, children? Now this is how the Himalayan mountains have been formed. And later on, when when this area started elevating, automatically what happened? A large basin was formed here. A large basin was formed to the south of this region, and there lot of sedimentary rocks. The rocks, gravel has come deposited here, and along with that, the various perennial rivers that has flown from these mountains got some fertile, very fine alluvial soil, and that soil deposited over this region, and there the Gangetic plain has emerged. And coming to the southern part of our country, we get peninsula region, and you know this plateau region, the land, the rock, which is the hard rock in the plateau region, it is one of the oldest mountain block. It is one of the oldest mountain block of the world. So now let us get deep into the physical features of our country. So now, how many physical features in India has been divided into? We shall learn about. First is the Himalayas. Children, remember that you should never say Himalayas, but you should say the Himalayas. The Himalayas. Next, the Indo-Gangetic Plain. The Indo-Gangetic Plain. And if you go for the next one, it is the Peninsular Plateau or the Deccan Plateau, you can say. Plateau consists of T, children. That is why when you write the spelling, don't forget to write correct spelling. Plateau consists of T, T-E-A-T. T, I think you all drink every day. So, Deccan Plateau, and next we have the coastal plains. The coastal plains and the deserts and the last one is the islands. features of our country, we can see here that the physical features are of 6 types. 6 physical features are seen in our geological or geography of India. So now coming to the Himalayas. The Himalayas, as you know very well, that they are the ice-covered mountains. They are the ice-covered mountains which run. If you see the physical map, just once again, we shall look into the physical map of our country to see the extension of Himalayas. Now just you see the physical map of India where you can find the Himalayan mountains running in the west and east direction. They run in the west and east direction, and if you see, they extend for a distance of 2,400 kilometers. The Himalayas, they run in the west and east direction. West and east direction in the form of an arc. In the form of an arc from northwestern part of the country towards the east edge of the country. In the northern side, we find these Himalayas which run in west and east direction. And they are 2,400 kilometers in their length. From west to east, they run for a distance of 2,400 kilometers with a width of almost 500 to 50 kilometers. From the width ranging 500 kilometers to 50 kilometers. Did you get it, children? From the west to east edge, it covers the length of 2,400 kilometers, in which the width of these ranges also vary from place to place. In the western side, they are wide enough, whereas as they are moving towards the eastern side, they are very narrow. They get very narrow. If you see the western side, the middle, the central side, and the eastern side, if you see, in the western side, you can see the width. The average width is almost 500 kilometers. And when you go to the central part, it is almost 200 kilometers of width. And as you move towards the eastern side, the width goes on reducing, and it is almost 50 kilometers. This is the mean width, average width of the Himalayan mountains. And if we go into the Himalayan ranges, if we just see how the Himalayan ranges are distributed, the Himalayas are divided into 3 ranges. You can find 3 ranges in Himalayas. The first is the Greater Himalayas, which are towards the northern side. The Greater Himalayas, which are also called as Himadri. You know, Himadri. In Sanskrit, the word Adri means mountain. That is why you might have heard about Yadadri, Bhadradri, Sheshadri, Venkatadri. So Adri means mountain. So Himalayas are Himadri, that means the mountains of ice. So the Greater Himalayas, these Greater Himalayas, they have an average elevation of almost 6,100 meters. The average elevation of the Greater Himalayas is 6,100 meters. That means average. That means there are some peaks which are more elevated than 6,100, and there are some which are lesser than that. And you can see this in Greater Himalayas, the Greater Himalayas is continuous. It is continuous without any breakages. It is continuous, and The average height is 6,100 kilometers, and many of the largest peaks, many of the highest peaks, they are found in the Greater Himalayas. Understand, children? And here, because of this height, because of this elevation, because of this high elevation, ice is accumulated over the peaks, and this ice is very largely deposited, very largely accumulated, and in this region we find glaciers. Glaciers are nothing but they are very big moving ice blocks, very big moving ice blocks under the ice, and these glaciers, they lead to the formation of the perennial rivers. And the three great perennial rivers which are very known to all of us are the Ganges, the Indus, and the Brahmaputra. So they have their origin in the Himalayan mountains. These glaciers, they are responsible for the formation of the perennial rivers. Okay, and next, to the south of that we have the lesser Himalayas. This is lesser Himalayas. The greater Himalayas are towards the extreme north, and to the south of that we have lesser Himalayas, and these lesser Himalayas are it is this region where we have very rugged surface, very rough surface. That means the surface is not even. The surface is very rough. And here in this we find very highly compressed rocks. In lesser Himalayas we find highly compressed rocks, and the elevation, it ranges from, the average elevation ranges from 3,700 meters to 4,500 meters. So this is the average, or this is the mean elevation of the lesser Himalayas. And here we find various ranges like Pir Panjal, Mahabharata ranges. Those ranges, they are found in these areas. Along with that, between these various, in this area, we find various valleys between the ranges. So the Kashmir Valley, I think you might have heard about it. Kashmir Valley. Have you heard, children? Yes, Kashmir Valley, and along with that, Kulu Valley, Kangra Valley. Kashmir Valley is in Kashmir, and Kulu and Kangra valleys, they are Kulu and Kangra. They are in HP, that means Himachal Pradesh. You find these valleys in Himachal Pradesh, and various hill stations. Most of us enjoy spending our time in hill stations, especially during summers. Most of the people, they go because they are very rich in their scenic beauty also. The hill stations like Simla, Mussoorie. Heard about this? Simla, Mussoorie, Nainital, Ranikhet. These are some of the hill stations that are found in this lesser Himalayan ranges. So these lesser Himalayas are the source of great tourism. Tourism is well developed here. And again, to the further south of this, we find the Shivaliks, or which are called the lowest part of the Himalayas, which are Shivaliks. They are called as Shivaliks. And in these Shivaliks, they are extended for the height, or the elevation extends almost between 900 and 1100 meters. The height or the elevation, the average mean, the mean elevation of the peaks in this area or in Shivaliks, it ranges between 900 meters and 1100 meters. 900 meters and 1100 meters, and as the height also is less, along with that even the width also is comparatively less when compared to the greater Himalayas and the lesser Himalayas. They almost range from 10 to 50 kilometers. They are extended for 10 to 50 kilometers. And next, between this lesser Himalayas and Shivaliks, between the lesser Himalayas and the Shivaliks, we find some valleys which are dune valleys. Which are dune valleys. For example, Dehradun, Kotli Dune, Patli Dune. So these dune valleys, they are found between the lesser Himalayas and the Shivaliks. Okay, children? Did you understand about what is the physical feature or what is the thing that is seen in Himalayan ranges? This is the general outfit or outline of Himalayan mountains. And now, children, I would like to ask you a question. Are really Himalayan mountains useful for our country? Absolutely useful. In what way they are useful? How they are protecting our country? That is very, very important, children, for all of you to learn. And it is also very important part of evaluation also. When you get your question paper or when you come across any exam also, you will get this. So these Himalayan mountains, they are just like protectional walls. They protect our country from the cool winds that are blowing from the Central Asian region or towards the northern part. From there, whatever are the cool winds that are blowing, these Himalayan mountains, they protect the Indian plain, the Great Indian Plain, from those cool breezes moving into our country. And else, suppose if at all these Himalayan mountains were not there, then certainly our India would not have been as how it is today. And along with that, these Himalayan mountains are the source of perennial rivers. These perennial rivers means, you know, continuously throughout the year for 365 days they will be flowing. That means permanent rivers. So Himalayan mountains are the source of permanent rivers or perennial rivers, and because of which hundreds and thousands and lakhs of acres of land has come under cultivation, and because of which Indians mostly they have got in agriculture as their occupation. And another thing is that in India, it has monsoon type of climate. And this monsoon type of climate is mostly because of Himalayan mountains. If at all Himalayan mountains were not there, the monsoon also would not have been in this way for all of us. And along with that, these mountains have some passes like Bolan passes, Khyber passes, and from these Bolan Khyber pass, from these the foreigners also have entered into our country, and there has been a cultural exchange. We can say that there has been a cultural exchange in the ancient India. So, in all such ways, Himalayan mountains are useful our country, especially the fertile Gangetic plain. It is because of this fertile Gangetic plain. It is because of the Himalayan mountains, the alluvial soil that comes from the peaks that flows and deposits in the plain. It is because of that the plain is very fertile. Okay. Now next, let us go to the Indo-Gangetic plain. Indo-Gangetic plain. The name itself gives you an idea about what is Indo-Gangetic plain. I think you have got some idea about Indo-Gangetic plain. Why it got that name? Yes, it is not plain, P-L-A-N-E. It is P-L-A-I-N, plain, children. So Indo-Gangetic plain. And this Indo-Gangetic plain has been formed because of the interaction of three important rivers. What are the three important rivers? As I have earlier told you, the Indus, the Ganges, and the Brahmaputra. The interaction of these three rivers has given emergence of Indo-Gangetic plain. Indo-Gangetic plain has emerged because of the interaction of these three rivers, which are perennial, which flow from the Himalayan mountains. And about 20 million years, about 20 million years, there was a shallow basin, and this shallow basin, it was covered with alluvial soil that was gradually brought by the perennial rivers from the Himalayan mountains. And this alluvial soil has been deposited. The sediments that were brought by the rivers, they have been deposited in this shallow basin, which has led to Indo-Gangetic plain. And again, when we have to study this Indo-Gangetic plain, again here also we have three divisions. We can just divide it into three divisions. That is Western, Central, and Eastern children. So we can divide it into three parts. So Western, it is formed by the river Indus and its tributaries. The Indus has 5 tributaries, very important. The Jhelum, the Chenab, the Ravi, the Beas, and the Satluj. These are the 5 important tributaries of river Indus, and this river Indus, it takes birth in the Himalayan mountains and it flows towards the south along with its tributaries, bringing very fertile alluvial soil, depositing in the western part of our country. But during the time of partition, most of these lands, almost 85% of the fertile lands of the western part, that is, that are brought by the river Indus, 85% of the lands went to Pakistan, and only a little portion in Punjab and Haryana plains, they are in India. The remaining we can see in Pakistan. Okay, children? And next, coming to the central part. This central part, it extends, it is this central part, we can say that the river Ganges. The river Ganges has brought the alluvial deposits, and it has formed the central part of the Gangetic plain, as we can see. And this runs between the rivers Ghaggar and Teesta. River Ghaggar and Teesta, it extends, and it is really very fertile, and it is in the northern part of our country, in which the states UP, Bihar, Chhattisgarh, and along with that, Haryana, Jharkhand, sorry, not Chhattisgarh, it is UP, Bihar, Haryana, Jharkhand, West Bengal. These states, they are covered under the central Gangetic plain. Okay, and next coming to the eastern part. And the eastern part of the Gangetic plain is mostly formed because of the interaction of, or because of the flow of the alluvium brought by the river Brahmaputra. It is brought by river Brahmaputra, and it exists in Brahmaputra valley in Assam, very narrow belt. And here the prominence of river Indus, here the prominence of river Ganges, and here the prominence of river Brahmaputra is found. And if we observe the Gangetic plain, after the Shivaliks, to the south of Shivaliks, we have a narrow belt of 8 to 16 kilometers to the south. What is Shivaliks? Yes, children? Just once again go back. The larger Himalayas or greater Himalayas, the lesser Himalayas, and the Shivaliks. So Shivaliks is the, we can say that it is the foothills of the Himalayas. Shivaliks is the foothills of Himalayas. Okay, now to the south of Shivaliks, parallel to Shivaliks, with a width of 8 to 16 kilometers, we find Bhabar. Now you might be thinking, what is Bhabar? Coming to this, Bhabar, it is a narrow belt of gravel and pebble sediments. Narrow belt of gravel and pebble sediments that have been deposited to the south of Shivaliks. And these pebbles and gravel, they are deposited here under which we can see some streams and rivers flowing under it. Pebbles will be, if you just look, open your textbook, you can see in page number, yes, in page number 20, sorry, in page number 6, figure 14, figure 1.4, you can see the pebbles which are deposited, brought from the mountain areas, and these, under these pebbles, water will be flowing. The water is, the streams and rivers will be flowing. And these streams and rivers, now if you take now, these are pebbles you think. And water streams will be flowing. And this stream, somewhere where the pebble region or pebble area ends and where the hard soil appears, there, that is to the south of this area, the water again comes out. Water will be flowing, and that water comes out forming some marshy, forming some very wet land, marshy land, and that marshy land, it is called as terrae, and this terrae is very rich with alluvium, rich with minerals, and that means soil minerals, and here we can find very dense evergreen forest, that is in the terrae region. Okay, children, I do think that you have understood what is bhavar and what is terrae. Okay, children, yes, let us again meet in the next class. Thank you.